Welcome in to another episode of Chiefs Focus Live. We have a full show for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Some of our normal Thursday stuff, talking about the injury report and our beloved segment, Believe It or Not. We'll talk about McCole Hardman being back and how that affects the wide receiver room, and we'll finish the show off with our score predictions. My name is Quentin Morse. Thiz is running the show in the background, and now a guy who is complaining about some balls. It's the old man himself, JP.
Hey, you know what? If we could all deflate our balls, we'd be in great shape. How you doing, man?
Good. Busy day, busy week, and it's more than just Christmas. It's all work stuff. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I know how you feel. I do know how you feel. It's very rare that I am tired in the middle of the day and ready to take a nap, and I actually passed out prior to the show for about 30 minutes. So, let's get into this crap. What's up, Will? And everybody else has joined the show. You guys can chat if you'd like. All you have to do is go down there and what's up, Philip? Type into that chat box, and we will definitely answer any questions you have. Let's start off really quick with a couple of debunking things real quick. The Patriots raised concerns at halftime that the kicking balls seem to be a little underinflated. And they were. The referees figured it out.
I got the numbers in front of me if you want me to read from the article.
Sure, read it off.
So this is from NBC Sports. Footballs are supposed to be between 12.5 and 13 pounds per square inch. That's PSI for those of you that want to know. The kicking balls were right around 11. So both the Chiefs and Patriot balls were lighter. Both punters, Tommy Townsend and Bryce. I don't even know how to say that last name. Bargainer? I don't know. Notice the balls were light, and they were averaged 6 fewer yards per punt from the first half to the second half. The reason it was changed in the second half is because the Patriots complained about them, and according to the refs, the balls were confirmed to be light, and they were inflated to the correct PSI to start the second half.
Now, let's talk about this real quick for all the Chiefs haters out there that tried to say this was Deflategate 2.0. The Chiefs tried to cheat. Andy and Mahomes or Belichick and Brady, blah, blah. The balls were underinflated on both sides, not just the Patriots and not just the Chiefs. And there is an official that is supposed to check the balls prior to the game and at halftime. They were going to be checked at halftime. Well, let me take that back. They're checked at halftime if there's a significant temperature change. So just like tires on your car, if the temperature goes up and down, air will change. The PSI will change. So for all the dumbasses out there that wanted to post on Twitter that Chiefs were trying to cheat and this and that and the other, let's end that one because you can't. I know you hate us because you hate us, but you can't continue to try to find little things just to try, to beat us down for. You come up with everything. By the way, Patrick Mahomes did another great thing. He bought all of his offensive linemen really nice golf carts for Christmas.
Those videos, I have never seen a 350-pound man look like such a child.
Oh, my God. And Willie Gay is so jealous right now.
When they were racing around Arrowhead, the parking lot at Arrowhead,
yeah,
that's some of the funniest shit. Oh. Any gift that you can give a grown man and it makes him look like a child, and that's a good gift right there.
Absolutely. And that just tells you what kind of guy Patrick Mahomes is. Now, let's take this one step a little further. Chris Jones was fucking hilarious in his little press conference about the gifts. Because they asked him, what'd you guys get? And he said, we didn't get nothing. He says, hey, but you know what? I don't make Patrick Mahomes' contract. If I made $50 million a year, maybe it'll be a little different. But if I get 10 sacks, I buy all the defensive linemen a Rolex. But I'm not at 10 sacks. They ain't getting nothing. And he walked off the stage. And that was some good shit.
He had a good time at the press conference today.
He really did.
There's a different vibe in the building this week. I know last week, all of the reports coming out from Nate Taylor, The Athletic, everybody, it was that people were quiet in the locker room. There wasn't any music playing. So there's a different vibe this week. It's Raiders week. We're all ready to have a very Merry Christmas and send the Raiders home. Well, more lack thereof. We're ready to send them home with that L. So
that's right. That's right. And I think, look, we talked about this on the Tuesday show. We'll talk about it again really quick. We knew what was coming. We actually talked about this with Sky Moore, and it happened. We talked about it a couple of weeks prior, at least 2 weeks prior. And I had a couple of guys call me and they said, "Man, you're batting a million right now." And I said, "Well, no, not really. I just got told the right information again. This is what was planned." I mean, they were waiting for a reason. They got their reason. I think this is going to change the way this offense looks. We've been talking about this. I know Andy's been saving some things up, saving some packages up, doing some different things. This is absolutely going to change the way this offense looks. It is what it is. One guy, one weak link can change everything. He can break the chain. And that's kind of what's been going on. I think with McCole back in the mix, maybe, just maybe, depending on how this week goes, there may be another player that's signed through the end of the year, which I'm not going to bring up who yet, but that may happen. I have a feeling that everybody's going to be pleasantly surprised with how this team looks moving forward. And a lot of people are going to be very scared. Very, very scared. Kay Adams, by the way, little tiny Kay Adams, came on and talked from her house, her little apartment, wherever she was, tiny little apartment, must be in New York, but talking about Rashee Rice and how phenomenal of a player he is. And he is only behind, who the hell was it? One other player in the NFL right now in a certain category. I mean, the guy is basically top 5 in every category. He has come on like an absolute number 1 wide receiver in the NFL and a number 1 wide receiver in this system. So happy to have him. So happy we drafted him. For all the people that said Veach can't draft wide receivers, he can because we just did. Yes, he has a few drops, but he also has, I think, the second most targets on the team.
Yeah, only behind Kelsey.
Only behind Kelsey, and he throws, and Mahomes does throw the ball a lot. So we can bring that all that discussion to a halt about us not being able to draft wide receivers. We did it. Also, Patrick Mahomes actually leads the NFL in passing yards, which is kind of insane to think about right now. For all the naysayers that said he was playing like shit, he's leading the league in passing yards. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with with all the rhetoric and all the bullshit and all the headaches and everything that's come along with this season. I'm feeling really good about the last 3 games and the postseason. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it helps to feel better about the games and the fact that you're playing 3 backup quarterbacks.
Well, yeah, that does help. But
let's move on to our next segment. We're going to go over the injury report. Okay, so we got 4 guys that didn't practice today. Nick Bolton, who, God help this man, because he's having a rough week. He is listed as did not practice with a wrist injury, an abdomen injury, and an illness. So my man needs to, I don't know, takes his vitamins or something, because damn. Chris Jones is out. Yeah, Chris Jones is out with an illness. Jerick McKinnon out with a groin injury, and Kadarius Toney was out with a hip flexor. Those are the 4 guys listed that did not practice. There are a few guys on here that were limited. Donovan Smith was limited, and we've got McCole Hardman, who was limited. Everybody else was a full participant. Let's see what happens. The Donovan Smith one is a little interesting, but I still think that even if he comes back fully healthy, they're going to play Wanya Morris in his spot. The McCole Hardman one is interesting because it's like, okay, let's say he's fully healthy. What do you do? They took him off the IR. His 21-day window opened today. So they basically have until the end of the year to add McCole Hardman back onto the wide receiver room. So what do you do, JP?
it's hard because you've got Justin Ross and you also have Richie James that you can add to the wide receiver room at any. Well, Richie James is already there, but you can also add Justin Ross. I would almost tend to say add Justin Ross right now, and the only reason I'm saying that is because he needs the practice. He needs to get out there on the field, and when you're playing a team that you can obviously beat with all the other weapons that you have, you need to get him out there and get him the reps. That's my opinion. McColl knows the system. He can get out there and play. But I think they probably ought to put Justin Ross in and get him some reps. That's just my opinion. But they can, in retrospect, depending on who if they want to move somebody around, they can have both of them active if they wanted to do that. I don't think McColl's going to be active this week. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I would be surprised if he's active this week. Look, you took him off. You opened his 21-day window. If you were that confident that he was going to play, you would have brought him back earlier in the week so he could participate and practice every practice instead of just, the 2 before you play on Monday night. Honestly, I don't think it makes much of a difference, to be honest with you, because I think Kansas City needs to trim the fat in the wide receiver room. If you're not working with this offense, then I don't need to give you targets. I don't want to have guys, hey, I'm going to give you 2 snaps. I'm going to give you 3 targets. And we're going to see who can make a play. We're past that. It's December. Christmas is on Monday. I don't want this wide receiver room to be like, I'm going to give you 2 snaps. I'm going to give you, 2 targets. I'm going to give you an opportunity. We're past that point. We need guys to get ready for the playoffs. And I don't want to just throw another guy out there to see if he's going to work, because we basically know who's going to work.
I agree.
I think Rice is your clear one, right? If we're just talking wide receiver room, I think Rice is your clear one. I think Watson is your clear 2. I still think you need to keep MVS out there, because even though he has struggled to catch the ball, the routes that he runs are important in a scheme sense, because when he runs those deep routes, you still have to send somebody to block him or to cover him. And he can clear out corners and safeties that are dropping back in his own coverage. So his value there is still there, despite the fact that he has had an extremely underwhelming season. The value of having him on the field is still there.
Here's the thing. MVS was brought in for a reason. He did it. He actually fulfilled that reason last season. He did it very well. He was a deep threat decoy. That's what he's designed to be. He's not an intermediate guy. He's not any of that. That's what he does. Given the fact that, and we really got to reel this back a little bit. Yeah, we've had 38 drops, but he's only had 2 legitimate drops. So we can't really just sit here and slam MVS because he had a couple drops. He hadn't had the greatest season because the entire wide receiver room hasn't had a great season. It all, it's all has to go with the flow. Everybody has to be in sync. For everybody that's listening, please do me a favor and like and subscribe. That would be great.
We're turning into those people now.
We are. But I think given the fact that these other packages are going to be put together, and
can we put Philip's comment back up there? I want to talk about that. Okay. Philip says Ross is going to get more chances these next 3 games. He's reliable on intermediate routes, the numbers, and in the red zone. Are we sure? I haven't seen it. The Chiefs haven't seen it. They haven't put him out there to do it.
Here's the thing. You may not have seen it so far, but we know, look, the Chiefs signed him for a reason. They signed him with a boot and a bad back for a reason. They know what he did in college. They know what he can do. They know what he's done in practice. He is a very reliable player. He runs great routes. He's a good intermediate ball catcher. And plus, he's actually, when you really think about it, if you watch any of his college film, he was very good downfield. He's just not the fastest guy on the field. And that's where everybody was flipping out about him, is his speed is not there. His game speed wasn't there for the NFL. But he was never known for being the fast, speedy guy. He was known for a guy that ran great routes and had great hands.
Here's what I would say to that. If he was so good in practice, etc., than before he had the off the field issues, which I don't even want to get into. But he would have seen the field more.
Not really. Not with Andy Reid, dude. It's very difficult to see the and one. There's two reasons why. One, they put him out there very. They were very gradual when they put him out there just to make sure that he can actually handle the hits, not get re-injured. Make sure everything was stable with his back and his leg. But they also wanted him to learn how to play with Patrick Mahomes in real life game situations. So they did the same thing they've done with everybody else. I mean, they did it with Tony, to a degree. They did it with Sky Moore last year. He was gradually brought into the system and gradually played. They were going to do that prior to his off-field issue that didn't happen, that he was never charged for. So it just kind of stunted the growth, I guess, to a degree. It halted everything. But that was their plan moving forward, was to get him more involved in the system. They just weren't able to do that. So I feel like they're going to be able to do that. Now, as far as Rice is concerned, put Phillips, if you can, put Phillips' other comment up there, because this is something that people say it hits a low bar. I don't think it does, given the fact that some of the wide receivers we have drafted over the years have been phenomenal. 68 receptions, second most in franchise history as a rookie. 3 more catches. He can pass Dwayne Bowe, 70 from most reception as a rookie in franchise history. He will get those next 3 receptions this game.
Yeah.
This game, if not more. And then yardage-wise, he's going to hit that 900-yard plus mark in the next 3 games. And I said this at the beginning of the season. Everybody said I was nuts, that he was going to get 250 yards and maybe a touchdown. No, this is not what he was. He was way too good to let sit. And they had to put the trust into him. It took him some time to build that trust, not only from Patrick, but from Andy. Andy doesn't trust rookies. Never has. That's why there's a very short list of rookies that have ever done what he has done right now. He's going to blow some minds moving forward with this football team. He's going to blow some minds. That kid has got so much talent. It's scary to think about how good he actually is.
Yeah, I think that he is. He's clearly the best. He's clearly the best wide receiver on this team, and I think the fact that he's going to break that 900-yard mark is more of a detriment on the rest of the room than it is for him. I still don't think he gets to 1,000, but I think he'll clear that 900 mark. He'll probably end the year with about 920. That's probably.
You didn't think he was going to get more than 300 at the beginning of the season.
Well, in my defense, I said I don't know if the opportunities are going to be there. I didn't expect the entire rest of the wide receiver room to crap their pants.
Well, it wasn't, and see, that's the thing. I can't say it was the entire wide receiver room because, again, when one wide receiver fucks up, everybody else is trying to help Mahomes. MVS has broke off his routes numerous times to try to find an open spot for Mahomes. He's just not used to doing it because he's got 3 runs in his route tree. He's always had three runs, 3 routes in his tree. That's all he's ever had. That's what he had in Green Bay, and that's what he has now. And that's why we brought him in. But when you really look at it from a broad perspective, somebody had to take over. And if it wasn't going to be Tony, it was definitely going to be him. And he did. He took over in a big way. And you're right. It's a detriment to every – look at that, 754 yards and 7 touchdowns right now.
It's crazy because Rice has – Travis Kelce is going to break that 1,000-yard marks. He's at 924.
Yep.
Rice is number 2. He has 754 yards. The number 3 receiving on the team is Justin Watson with 381.
Exactly.
So, it is crazy how the rest of the wide receiver room has failed. I'm sticking with that I'm not going to backtrack on what I said about Rice. I made it very clear about my prediction. I had no concern about his talent on the field. It's just if you look historically, there are 2 wide receivers in an Andy Reid offense as a rookie that have come up and have been successful right off the bat. It's Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin. And do you know why those 2 were successful? Because they were rebuilding the entire team. So they had to get those opportunities because there was clearly nobody else. Rashee Rice is in a very similar situation. Are they rebuilding the whole team? No. But you know what they were rebuilding and need to rebuild? The wide receiver room. So the options and the opportunities fell onto Rice. It was never about the lack of talent. I was always pro Rashee Rice when we drafted him.
Yeah, and you were. I was excited that we got him. I mean, everybody wanted, what's his name? The one that he had drop issues too, and everybody wanted him. I can't remember where he went now, but he went right before Rice, and everybody was pounding the table for him. And I was happy that we went after Rice. He was the player that we actually Pickens. Sorry, yeah. No, it wasn't Pickens. It was somebody else. What's Quentin Johnston? Is that his name?
Yeah, Quentin Johnston, the guy that went to the Chargers. I was never a Johnston.
The guy went to the Chargers.
I do appreciate the fact that he spells his name correctly.
Correct. He everybody wanted him. I did not. I didn't see him fitting in our system, but I did see Rashee Rice fitting in our system, and he has. It's been great to watch him develop over the season. It's been phenomenal. I think, given the fact that the rest of the wide receiver room has had issues because of 1 or 2 players, and those 1 or 2 players just happen to be Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney, because they have the most drops, one has the most routes run wrong, and Kadarius Toney just, I don't know if he lathers his hands up with butter prior to the game, if his gloves are dipped in axle grease. I really don't know what the fuck's going on, but he can't catch football to save his life.
And he should take the gloves off.
He should. I agree with you. Or get better gloves. One of the two. Either he needs
or go borrow some spider tack from across the parking lot.
Yeah, it can't be that hard. I mean, they sell that shit everywhere. It's just become a problem with him, and I see, and the drops, to me, as far as Rice is concerned, he actually leads the team in drops by, I guess technically he leads the team in drops. But you know who else did for their first 2 years in the league? Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
That's right. He had a horrible first season. His second season wasn't that much better. But he was ranked number 1, number 2 for many years, and he's still top 5. And he's not getting the targets that he used to get because he's on a shit team with a shit quarterback and a shit system. I mean, he's getting a little more now than he did the last, 2 years. But imagine if he would have gotten the targets that he's getting right now over the last 2 years from a quarterback. It'd be totally insane. You're right, Derek. We do have the Raiders number. The one thing that I can say about that, the only thing that I will say about this is we've had a lot of numbers over the years. We had the Donkeys number over the years, and they did beat us. So I attribute that to 2 things. One, we beat ourselves. They didn't beat us. Between the issues with, I'm sorry, but Sky Moore ran the route wrong 4 times in that game. I know that to be a fact. Toney ran the route wrong in that game.
This has been,
and we played them 2 weeks apart.
This has been a problem for a while now. I mean, one of the most iconic plays in Chiefs history now, corn dog, right? Yeah. Sky Moore was on the wrong side of the field.
Exactly.
And it just and it worked out, and when those things, when those things come out and it works, it's quirky, it's funny, and we all get to, laugh about it. But when it starts to be a problem, as it has this year, it is sort of built up, but I don't want to spend I don't want to spend the entire time talking about just the flaws in Kansas City. Let's talk about how crappy the Raiders are. That's always a fun conversation.
Well, that's always fun. That makes me happy just thinking about that alone.
I know that they're coming off of a game where they literally scored 63 points and beat the Chargers by 42. and got their head coach fired. But this is also a team that got shut out by the Vikings. So let's talk about the Raiders for a second. That offense playing against the Chargers, do not take that game for anything that you saw happen. They were pulling anything and everything out of the playbook in order to, I swear the running backs had like 4 throws in that game. So let's take a cool down for a second. That's not who the Raiders are. That game was more about how bad the Chargers are than anything positive about the Raiders. Okay?
Correct.
Let's get that out of the way.
Correct.
In terms of the offensive side of the ball, there are some star players that are going to be that are potentially going to be missing from this game. Both Max Crosby and Josh Jacobs did not practice today. And Max Crosby's with a knee injury, and Josh Jacobs is a quad injury. And Max Crosby got pulled out of the game against the Chargers.
Yes.
So this is I know this is like a budding rivalry, quote unquote. I don't see it that way because in order for it to be a rivalry, you have to have some success between Max Crosby and Patrick Mahomes. You remember when Max Crosby was talking some shit and then Patrick Mahomes was talking back and his offensive lineman had to pull him away?
Yep.
I think that is an intriguing sort of, like I said, rivalry, quote unquote. But Max Crosby is definitely the best defensive player that they have. And if he's not playing, I don't know what the hell they do.
And honestly, when you think about it, he wasn't 100% when – well, I guess he was. He was playing – he played pretty much – did he play all the snaps against us or not? I couldn't remember.
The first time around? Probably, because that was pretty early in the year.
Yeah, I thought for some reason I had a feeling he was questionable for that game, and then he ended up playing anyway because he was going against Mahomes and he didn't want to miss the game. I do remember that. But he was pretty ineffective. If he's out and you got no Josh Jacobs and you're relying on Aiden O'Connell, I don't know what. There's not much more you can say. Again, I agree with you. You were spot on. You just played a horrible, horrible football team. Probably, in my opinion, probably the worst. He said Tyree Wilson could go off. That is funny. I arguably the worst football team right now in the game, and that's actually putting them below the Panthers. I mean,
it's just funny thinking about when we made our NFL predictions going back to September, when we were like, okay, the Chargers, it's Chiefs, Chargers, and then what? Right? We were debating who's worse, the Broncos or the Raiders. And it's really the Chargers are the worst team in this division. And we were just giving them some freebies because you have a competent quarterback. And now it turns out that the team is just so bad that it doesn't matter that you have a competent quarterback playing on your team.
Exactly. And the sad part is that, we have been talking about how Brandon Staley's been on the hot seat. He was actually on the hot seat at the beginning of last year. He saved his job by, moving his offensive coordinator around, thought that was going to fix the issue. His defense fell apart this year. His offense still wasn't any good. He's making a really good quarterback look really bad. Got him injured twice in 2 years. And this time he's out for surgery and out for the season. Their season's over anyway. But the whole thing is that if that team, I will say this, if Staley wouldn't have gotten beaten the way he did last week, he'd still be with the Chargers because they were going to ride him out until the end of the season and then fire him. But for embarrassment's sake and PR's sake, they fired him now to keep their 6 or 7 fans happy.
Yeah, the one Buffalo Wild Wings girl.
Yeah, that girl and then that guy that stands on the corner selling hot dogs somewhere. Yeah, those 2 people are happy. It's just a really it's a really shitty football team, and they're going to have to this is one thing that everybody has to realize: the Chargers have a complete rebuild coming. This is not just a few players. This is every player on that team is going to have to be moved at some point or another. You got some competent rookies, and you got a quarterback. Everybody else is probably going to be gone in this next offseason. And that includes their defensive package. that they put together. That includes those two guys. I don't see how they stay. I just don't see it happening. Because when you have to rebuild and you want to bring in people to win now, and if you're smart, you'll build for the future, you're going to have to spend some money. So you're going to have to get rid of some of those higher paid guys like Bosa and Khalil Mack. And the only two real stars they have on that defensive side of the ball for the most part. It's going to be rough for them for the next few years, no matter how you look at it. Legendary Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh is the favorite. That's exactly what I said. Everybody was bragging up Belichick going there. I told you guys that's not going to happen. Belichick is not going to be the head coach of the Chargers. It's not going to happen. Why? Why would he? He's having a hard enough time with the team that he's been with for 23 years. I'm sorry. Why would he want to come into another system and have just as many problems, if not more? He's not going to do that. Either Belichick's going to do one of two things. He's either going to stay in New England, which is there's a 5% chance of that, or he's probably going to end up in Chicago because he really likes Chicago's team from their quarterback down. They will take him as a GM / head coach. That's what they'll do. It's going to be a fun off season. We're going to have a lot of shows talking about a lot of crazy shit this off season.
Yeah. Back to the Raiders. I want to switch to the offensive side of the ball. We've got Josh Jacobs, like I said, who didn't practice. We'll see what that ends up to. They've got a number one wide receiver, Devontae Adams, right, who is a top 5 wide receiver in this league. And I'm to the point now where you can just expect the Chiefs defense to shut down a number one wide receiver. Yeah. We've had this conversation, I feel like multiple times, but I feel like you gotta keep having this conversation. Is like the Chiefs cornerback room, whether it's Snead or McDuffie, continue to just handle number one wide receivers at what I feel like is a historic rate, right?
Yeah.
No number one wide receiver has had a significant impact on a game. And we're talking about literally the best of the best. Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams before. Even guys that are like sort of that next tier, Stephon Diggs and Keenan Allen. Like nobody has come against this defense and has really shown them who's boss, quote unquote. So I think that especially if Josh Jacobs doesn't end up playing in this game, the Raiders are going to have a hard time moving the ball because even their tight end, Michael Mayer, did not practice. So limited offensive weapons for Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that they could get worse, but they will if these guys aren't playing. And what you said about our secondary is absolutely true. The most yardage scored by a wide receiver this season is 66 yards, I believe it is, or 62 yards. 62 yards. 62 and no touchdowns in that game. The next closest was 42 yards, if I'm not mistaken. And then everybody else was below that. So you're talking about, and we've played the absolute best wide receivers in the league this year. Every one of them that are top 5. And we've shut them all down. I mean, insane. Will, real quick. Yeah, we did hear what he said. He's an idiot. I mean, he can talk all he wants. We shut him down. And I think that's just anger coming out in him. I'd be angry too if I was on a team that was that bad, is what it is. He said, just blessed to have Mahomes. Just think we had Brady Quinn and Matt Castle. Oh, believe me, I remember those times. You don't even know. Think about this. We had Elvis fucking Gerback. Okay, we had Elvis Gerback.
Bills quarterback?
We had Elvis fucking Gerback. Okay, I mean, the guy that I honestly wanted to just go out and
was he the one that said I can't throw the ball and catch it too?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. And I, honest to God, thought everybody was going to kill him that day because I was there, and I could tell you that was not a pretty sight. We've had some really bad quarterbacks. We've had some decent quarterbacks, but we've had some really bad ones. I mean, we could go back a long time and talk about how bad we did in the draft, and we picked Todd fucking Blackledge over Jim Kelly and Dan Marino and everybody else that was in that draft class that went to Super Bowls and played very well. But, Kenny decided he wanted to go with Todd Blackledge, who can't even make it as a college commentator now. But, yeah, that's a great matchup, Philip. You're right. We are blessed to have Mahomes. And the fact that he's leading the league in yards right now, he's on pace he was on pace for 4,200 plus. He bumped that up a little bit after last week's game. He could honestly end the season around 4,600 yards, which most teams would beg to do that. And if you really want to really put it in perspective, Kirk Cousins had, they all bragged about him because of his 4,200 yard seasons and his 4,500 yard seasons when he was with Washington. But he left there after 5 years with a losing record. So we are very lucky to have Mahomes. And it just is what it is. Moving forward, though, what else? What do we got now after the Raiders? What's the next on the agenda?
Believe it or not, or we can do pretenders or contenders. So whichever one you want to
do. Let's do pretenders, contenders or pretenders real quick.
All right, this is a segment we do a couple times a year where I give you a couple of teams that are either in the playoffs or on the bubble, and you tell me whether they're a contender or a pretender. So I've got a couple of teams in front of me right now. We're going to do 3, and you're going to let me know if they're a contender or a pretender. Okay? You get the principle? I hope you do, because we've done this before. We're going to go.
We got a lot of new followers on here, so we got to let them know. We got a lot of new people joining the show, so.
All right. I want to pick a team that's technically outside the playoffs, but it has continued to look, better and better as the weeks have gone on. The Buffalo Bills, contender or pretender?
Look,
I know,
man,
we start off rough.
We really do, and that's a hard one. Right now, with the state of the AFC and how some of these teams have just dropped off, you can almost say contender, but I still say they're a pretender when it comes to the playoffs. I don't see them getting very far. What's your opinion? And anybody in the chat, join in. Contender or pretender? We don't mind.
It's crazy because at the beginning of the year, I had them missing the playoffs, so in no way am I going to hedge my bet now. But damn, have they looked like a much better team over the last couple of weeks? It just seems like everything started to click. When you fire your offensive coordinator that just refuses to run the ball, and I know you have Josh Allen, but every NFL team needs to run the ball. That's why they made the position. So they've looked better when they've started to involve their running back, and I just think it's too little too late.
Yeah.
If they do get into the playoffs, then, it doesn't matter what seed they are. They're going to make anybody's day bad because there's a lot of talent on that team, including the quarterback, who I know that here in Kansas City, he gets a lot of flack, but he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So he's going to make some stuff happen.
Yeah.
So I still think they're a pretender because I still think that they missed the playoffs, but on the off chance they make it in, they're going to make wild card weekend very interesting.
I agree. I think because, I don't know. It really depends on who they play and how they get in. There's some teams out there that can actually fall off the board really quick after one loss, and then Buffalo's in. If Buffalo wins out somehow and a couple of teams lose out, their seeding is going to go way up. So it's going to be a strange situation to see who they end up playing in the playoffs starting off, in the postseason. I agree with you. I still think they're pretenders. I still don't believe that they have faith in Josh Allen. That's exactly – and look, I'm not going to sit here and slam Josh Allen because he's a good quarterback, a very good quarterback. He throws a lot of interceptions. He makes a lot of mistakes. He gets under pressure and he throws errant balls. There's things that he does that you're never going to coach that out of him. He's been doing it for too long now. So everybody compared Brett Favre or Mahomes to Brett Favre when Mahomes came into the league. I'm sorry, that is Josh Allen. Josh Allen's the guy that can go out there and win you a shit ton of games, but also lose you a shit ton of games because of decisions that he makes. It just is what it is. And if you really take a look at what they did this past week, the man had threw for 84 yards, and he won 31-10 because he threw for 84 yards, and his running back, by the way, had 226 all-purpose yards, 186 on the ground. So if they go by that philosophy and continue to do that, they're going to meet teams that are going to stop that pretty quick. But it gives you an idea of how much you need the running game to balance out everything. Without the running game, you have no pass game. Without the pass game, you have no running game. So you have to balance it out. It just is what it is. And it was a great game plan against Dallas. I 100% agree with you. Dallas is a football team that is just weird, always have been. But the Bills are, I'm sorry, they're not going to make it to the AFC Championship or even close. They're pretenders in my opinion. Who's the next team we got?
The Jacksonville Jaguars, which is a crazy conversation to have because on this show you were a huge proponent of the Jaguars heading into the season.
Yes, I was.
And they just can't seem to ever get their they just can't ever seem to get things going. Calvin Ridley has had a surprisingly good year. He's over the 800-yard mark. Everything about this team, you just look at it and you're like, they should be one of the better teams in the AFC. They should have a serious conversation about what can they do in the playoffs. But man, Jacksonville just can't seem to get anything going. And I know they're winning the AFC South, so I'm going to jump on the pretender list here, despite the fact that more than likely they're going to host a wild card weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I was a huge proponent, and I really believed up until these last 3 weeks, I guess, I still thought they'd be the team that we would meet in the AFC Championship game. I don't see it now. I just don't see it. I don't know what's happened to them, but they can't seem to get their shit together. It's mistake after mistake after mistake, and the mistakes that they make, they can't compensate for, which is very, it's very strange. Last year they started off the same. They started off pretty sluggish, and then they just came on strong, won their division, faced us in the playoffs. But this year they're going the opposite. They're actually going backwards. They started off halfway decent this year, and now they're playing terrible. Calvin Ridley started off, not the greatest, but again, this was his first season back. But then did come on strong and has had a really good second half to the season. I just don't see them right now. They're a pretender in my eyes. I don't know how they're going to be able to get out of this hole that they're in unless they fix their issues.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley, 2024 Chiefs. I
love to see that.
The last one here, I flipped back and forth between a couple. I was like, we can make fun of Dallas. Like, that would be fun, but, no need to.
That's easy to do.
Yeah. Let's talk about Miami. Contender or pretender?
Pretender. They're a pretender. I'm sorry, but they are. Look, man, look at who they've lost to, and look at anybody out here that's new. I have said this for 30 years. Look at your strength of schedule. That will tell you everything you need to know about the team as a whole. Stats don't mean shit if you're playing 0, 1, 2, and 3 win teams. You can be a top 5 defense if the majority of your games that you're playing are sub 500 teams. Fuck yeah, you're going to look good. You're going to look really good if you're playing terrible offenses. That's kind of how it works out in the NFL. So all these stats that everybody puts up, you really have to look at strength of schedule before you do anything else. Their strength of schedule has been in their favor all season long. The teams that they lost to were teams that were above 500, with the exception. Now the Titans beat them, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I believe the Titans won.
Yeah, it was because it was a huge upset. That was like 2 weeks ago.
Correct. Yes. The Titans had their number, ended up beating them. Now, of course, Tyreek Hill was out for part of the game, came back in, then was completely out. Uh, I just don't. They don't have the greatest defense, and they don't have great offensive planning when they're playing very good defenses or even above average defenses. They're a pretender in my eyes. What's your opinion?
I still think that I'm going to say that they're sort of a contender. I'm more on the pretender or contender than pretender side, and here's why. I feel like when whoever they face in the playoffs, Miami can beat any team any day, right? I don't feel that way about a lot of other teams in the NFL. I definitely don't feel like, like Jacksonville. I don't feel them like that. Where Miami, there's so much offensive firepower that they can jump out to a 21-point lead in the first quarter and it wouldn't shock you. So there's just so much talent on that team that I definitely feel like that this is an opportunity for Miami. Do I think that they're going to make a deep playoff push? Do I think they're making it to a championship game? Probably not. No, I don't feel that way. But I do think that you really could say that this is definitely the fourth best team in the AFC, the third best team in the AFC, and they can.
If you go by record, yes. I mean, that's all you can go by is record right now.
I just mean, going through it's Baltimore, Kansas City, and then a conglomerate of other teams, and you could really make an argument that Miami is that next team.
Yeah, I mean, you could. I don't think that. I think given the fact that they have 9-4 or whatever they are right now, I just feel like they're. How should I say this? I feel like they are very hyped up for a team that loses to anybody that's any good. And again, we watched this with Cincinnati. We've watched this with New England for years. Every time New England had the best schedule in the NFL for so many years because they were guaranteed 6 wins a year. No matter how you look at it. The Bills sucked, the Jets sucked, Miami sucked, they all sucked. So they were guaranteed those wins. Miami was the only team that actually had their number here and there. Then they would play divisions. It was strange how it always worked out, but they always played outside of their division. They would always play a team or two or three or four that were very weak. So it made them look very good. Miami's in that same situation right now. The AFC East is a very strange division simply because of the fact of who they play outside of their division every year. So I don't know. It's just hard for me to say they're a contender just given the fact, just basing it off their 9-4 record right now, just because of strength of schedule. But that's really about it. Philip is cracking me up right now.
Yeah, with the Demarcus Robinson takes.
Hey, you know what? Hey, fuck it all. I did not have the problems that everyone else had with D-Rob, other than the fact that he tried to be somebody else. When you run backwards and you don't have that skill set to be able to break free after you catch a ball, then stop running backwards. But when he catches the ball and he puts himself moving forward, he said, no. He made some acrobatic, phenomenal catches. He got some yak. It was when he tried to be Tyreek is what killed him. Oh, I love it. And that's
you want to
true.
move on to our final set? Well, second to last final segment. Believe it or not, we can.
Let's do the believe it or
like
not.
10 minutes.
Yeah. Let's do that.
All right, believe it or not is a segment where I give you some scenarios and you believe it or you don't. Pretty simple. I got 3 in front of me. 3 is a good number, So believe it or not, Kansas City rushes for over 100 yards. Now, Pacheco, Andy Reid says that they're expecting him to play, but did not guarantee it.
If Pacheco plays, yes. I mean, I feel like he's going to. I don't think he's not going to play. Andy's been kind of adamant about, he's not guaranteeing anything, but he has said yes, he looks like he's a go for this week. If Pacheco plays and has significant snaps, they're going to get over 100 yards.
Weighted caveat of all caveats.
Hey, you know what? I learned from the best. His name's Quentin.
Yeah. You know what? I believe even if Pacheco doesn't play, I want to speak this into existence. So that's why I'm doing this. I want Kadarius Toney to be used as some of the Deebo Samuel role out of the backfield. I want them to run some draw plays with him in the backfield. I want Kadarius Toney to be used more in the rushing game, especially if Pacheco is going to be on a snap count. So do it.
Okay, but when they did it before, he sucked at it.
Yes. But if you want to get the ball in his hands, that's the way I want you to do it.
He's saying no. Are you saying no? They're not going to get. They're not going to get 100 yards. Is that what you're telling us? I don't know what not. I mean, not what. Not.
It's
not
believe it or not.
Robinson?
So he doesn't believe that the Chiefs will get.
Okay, so that's what I'm wondering.
Yards
okay. So that's what I'm wondering. All right, I just want to make sure I was clear on that. What's the next one?
Okay, number 2, or numero dos, as our friends from the South might say. The Chiefs' defense has not allowed over 24 points all year, except to the Denver Broncos, which is a game we don't talk about. So, believe it or not, Kansas City continues that streak.
Yes, 100%. 100%, no doubt.
100%. Look, I bring this up because I know that there are some people that are like, they just scored 63 points, but I want to pump the brakes on that. Okay, Raiders are not that good. It was more of a detriment on the Chargers, like we talked about earlier. But I really feel like we need to reinforce this point because the Raiders are not that good. Okay, now you still got to take them seriously. You know, it's Monday Night Football against the Raiders. This is a tradition, but let's not freak out that much, okay?
Yeah. I can't see this happening at all. That was a gift. I mean, understand there were 5 fucking turnovers in that game, or 6 turnovers, and 3 of them went. I think 3 went for touchdowns. So let's not put too much into that. That game was a fluke. It is what it is. Yeah, they smoked cigars. They were happy. They got a franchise.
I mean, you beat a team like that, you got to smoke cigars.
Yeah.
I don't care if you beat the 0-15 Cleveland Browns. Okay? You do that to a professional sports team, that's what you do.
Exactly. So, but the game was really meaningless when it comes down to actual talent and everything else that comes along with it. It was a meaningless game. Running the score up on him like they did, I think, was a confidence booster. That's something I think Adrian Peterson wanted to do, or Pierce, I mean. But it's because that's just who he is. That's the type of coach he is. He's going to score until the clock strikes 0, no matter what. But that doesn't. They're not playing. They're not playing the Chargers. They're playing the Chiefs. They're playing the team that has shut down every good wide receiver in football, every great wide receiver in football. So I think that's exactly what he was doing. Thank you. He was staking his claim on the Raiders job. Now, do we think he did that? Probably so, just given the fact that Mark Davis still is very stupid by letting go of Rich, whatever his name was, their special teams coach, when he shouldn't have, because he actually had that team clicking.
Yeah.
But
was it Rich Bisaccia?
Bisaccia, yes. I think he'll keep him for that reason and that reason alone. And it's easier, to be honest with you. It's easier to keep somebody you've already got in the system than to go out and find somebody else and start over again, and everybody else has to try to figure out what the fuck is going on again for the 5th, 6th, 7th straight year. Yeah, it's easier. So they'll keep him. Now, do I think it's going to be a long-term contract? No, I do not. Probably 3-4 years. see what he does, and move on. But yeah, we got to give our score predictions too, because I'm not gonna go light on this one like I
Okay,
have the
I got
last
one
few
more,
weeks.
and then we'll do our score predictions.
Let's do that.
Chris Jones, according to PFF, is one of the best, not just interior defensive linemen, but all defensive linemen in terms of pressures per game.
Yes, he
But
is.
the last couple weeks, he seems to struggle to finally make it home. So, does Chris Jones get a sack against the Raiders? Believe it
Yes,
or not.
yes, he does. He definitely does. I will say this: the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple of injured defensive linemen. Things haven't gone exactly the way it should have gone. Omenihu wasn't 100%. I absolutely believe now that Omenihu is back and he's playing well. He's 100% where he should be. I do believe that he will get his sack, if not two.
Here's what I think. I'm going to say I say not, but I think Chris Jones continues to get his pressure, and because of the young quarterback, he's going to run into other guys, right? So he's going to get flushed out of the pocket, and Snead or Justin Reed or Drew Tranquil or whoever is going to end up cleaning it up. I think that's how a lot of the pressure is going to get manufactured.
And that's what happens a lot anyway. So you're right. That can
That's
happen.
what I think is going to happen. I think Chris Jones is going to blow up the middle. Their quarterback, Aiden O'Connell, will get flushed out to the left or right, and George Karlaftis will be there to get the sack, or it'll be Snead coming off a delayed blitz, and that's how Kansas City is going to end up getting the sacks, because I think they get to the quarterback multiple times.
Oh, I agree. And let's not forget Chris Jones, with not just being number one in pressure rate this season, but he's also number one in double and triple team. And what I mean by that is he's doubled and tripled in every single game. And he's also the number one held defensive player in football. So, with all that being said, he's still able to create that type of pressure. That's insane. That tells you how athletic he is, how strong he is. Nobody should be able to move the way that man moves at his size. No one. No one should be able to do it. And he does.
All right, we are coming close to an hour. Let's hit up that score predictions.
Let's do it. You go first. And then everybody in the chat, give us your score predictions.
I mean, I think Kansas City, I almost don't want to pick the over 30 mark, because Kansas City is just so consistent about not hitting that this year. So I feel like a solid 27-13 seems like a great mark again.
Okay, I can't do it. I feel like this is going to be the game that we see a lot of different packages, players getting on their. Thank you, Philip. Getting on their groove, being able to get into the system in these packages and play better. Thiz has got 27-14. I have a weird feeling this is going to be one of those games that is like what Philip is saying. I think I'm going to go with 33-10 Chiefs. And that's what I'm sticking with. I think we're going to make them look bad. And I know Mahomes wants to do that. So that's where I'm going, 33-10 Chiefs. Anybody else in the chat want to spit one out? Spit it out, because we're right here. I see 4 sacks in total by the Chiefs. I actually see us. I have this feeling that we're going to have a pick 6 in this game as well. So, and Mahomes is going to have another 300-yard day, which is going to be phenomenal to see. So, that's where I see. That's what I see coming. Oh, by the way, injury update, not for us. Jamar Chase is not doing too great in Cincinnati right now. And it doesn't sound like he's going to be playing at all this week and maybe next week. I don't know if he's going to show up for week 17, but he is not playing, from what I understand, unless things have changed really quickly. He is not going to play this week at all. Cincinnati is not going to make the playoffs this year, which is going to be crazy to think that they're not going to make the playoffs. But they're not. Even as well as their backup quarterback is playing, I mean, he's played better than Burrow did prior to him going out. So I just don't see them making the playoffs, especially if Jamar's injured. He's their number one go-to weapon. If he's out, that's even going to be worse for them. So, but with that being said, we're really happy that everybody joined, and make sure you absolutely go and get on your phone after this show. Make sure you like and subscribe. Then go onto your app on your phone to the App Store and download. He said Mahomes throws for 331 and 3 touchdowns. I like those numbers. But download the PSF app, Pro Sports Fans. Make sure you do that. Join us on Sunday or Monday, whenever the game is, any game for that matter, during the week or during the season and the off season through the playoffs or postseason through the playoffs. We are going to have live game casts. We have people come on like Boo Boo Smith. We're going to have some analysts come on, especially in the playoffs. It's going to be a lot of fun. You can join in on the chat. It puts spaces to shame. It's video and audio. It's the Manning cast unfiltered. And you can say whatever the fuck you want to say like we do on here. Because we can say fuck, shit, damn, and cocksucker, and nobody's going to get mad about it. Jump on. Have a good time. It's a lot of fun. And all you have to do is join the app. It's free. Follow Chiefs Focus and follow Chiefs Fans. Turn your notifications on because that will tell you when the live game cast starts. We usually do a pregame and a postgame, and then we do our regular show after the game on Chiefs Focus Live here. With that being said, we appreciate everybody for joining, and we will talk to you guys again on Monday. Peace out and enjoy your
See you,
Christmas.
Kingdom.